I have spent most of my professional career talking about video games in radio. It's not the most common place to discuss the newest and greatest tech. For a lot of people, it's seen as a simple plaything, a way that kids used to play with lights and buttons. In 2017, there is a bit of magic with video games. When the art direction, when the storytelling, when the animations, when all of the gameplay mechanics work together in confluence of ideas towards one greater experience, it's magic. Genius is not material, it's magic, and video games in 2017 have reached a form of storytelling that I don't think any other media has. 100 years from now, 500 years from now, as we look back on the great works of Shakespeare, I truly believe children born in that era will look back on games like BioShock and the forebears of that as a new age of storytelling. They will not be looking back at Mass Effect Andromeda.
We made it.
Meridian is mine.
He has access!
No more mercy. Kill them all.
Mass Effect Andromeda is the latest iteration from BioWare and one of the most popular space operas ever created. Over 10 years ago, they reinvented the franchise. The whole concept of an RPG was thrown on its head when Commander Shepard went on his first mission. This go, you're playing as one of the Ryder twins in a whole new galaxy with whole new options, whole new baddies to fight, and different opportunities to build your own story. Mass Effect and games of this kind are well known for one thing. It is their saving grace. It is what sells the franchise, the characters. Whether it was shooting bottles on top of the Citadel with Garrus or having that private moment when Jack, when she finally reveals who she really is, Mass Effect games cut through the pixels and polygon and say something that's true. True to the human condition, and I think true to our experience as people. We want to be together. We want to be strong. It tells stories in quite literal ways. Mass Effect Andromeda tries very hard to continue that legacy with complex relationships with characters like Peebee, the new wild child Asari, or the old Krogan Drax, nearly 2,000 years old, or the introduction of a new species, the Angara, and the avatar of that species, Jal, who joins your crew. This new species incorporates their physiology with emotion, so they are a feeling, and you get to interact with Jal in that story arc, which is really compelling and interesting. But for all of that work, for all of the important writing behind it, this game never reaches the points that the previous titles did. And here is simply why. It is not a fully functional game where there is that confluence of ideas and work. The art, the animations, the gameplay design, they aren't working together for that one greater theme, that one greater push, that one greater story. As soon as you enter the Tempest, your ship in Mass Effect Andromeda, you'll feel it right away. The conversations with many of the NPCs and squadmates that you've loved in the previous games now are a little more hollow, a little more stilted, and ironically a little more alien. Whether it is writing that is so cliched and hackneyed, especially for the human characters, or animations that leave you feeling a sense of the uncanny valley dip with characters' eyes exploding from their heads or moving around unnecessarily. This is about creating a sense of immersion. And the technical glitches compiled with just a writing style that seems to mirror games before Mass Effect 1 leave you feeling a little bit empty. I've spent close to 100 hours with the title, and there are some beautiful diamonds in the rough here. There are moments that are special, but at its core, this is a game that really is at odds with itself. The BioWare gods giveth, and they taketh away. For every great scene you have with Jal, understanding his emotions and how his society works, there's another broken scene with Cora that they push down your face. For every moment that you have a movie night with your squad that seems to be earned and pushed together as a team trying to colonize, you have instances, again, where Peebee is unable to say things properly and winks at you cutely, or Gil pushes some unfortunately stereotypical homosexual barb towards you, which seems really stilted and not genuine. The truth that we felt in the first 3 games from your companions is just not there.
I think you're cute and I like seeing you up here.
Oh my goodness, Ryder.
Also, the accent. The accent is, I mean, it's not the only thing, but, okay, I should just go over there to the piloting thing.
Kill me now.
I hate to look at a game and dismantle it by its mechanics. This as an art form needs to be seen as a harmonious symphony. You don't look at a beautiful book and say the font didn't work right. I'm tired of looking at games like toaster ovens, but Mass Effect Andromeda, unfortunately, has so many technical problems and little glitches that it takes away from the idea of a centralized thesis. So right off the bat, as many of you know, the animations are in many ways character killers. This really affects the human characters a lot more than some of the other aliens, but there's a sense of disconnect, characters walking around when they shouldn't be. And for a game that prides itself on a level of immersion and that connectivity with fake pixels on a screen, those pixels need to seem as real and alive as they can. And again, this is a game of contradictions. So for every moment there's a bad animation, you'll walk into your Tempest and the ship in the game and see your companions interacting and being alive. For every moment that you start to enjoy walking around the Nexus and seeing how your choices have made a difference, there'll be a side quest that wasn't activated properly because you're speaking behind it. These are small problems that should have been addressed that really take away from the idea of finding a centralized truth. That's not to say that there isn't a lot here to enjoy. In your role as Pathfinder, you are tasked with going to new worlds and colonizing them. As you colonize and interact with the different environments, you make changes to these beautifully diverse planets, whether they're ice-oriented, sunny, storm-filled deserts, or the jungle worlds. You make changes and decisions that affect how this galaxy will develop. That's always what I love in video games, the idea that you're making a lasting effect. But even with that, like we said, the Bioware gods giveth and they taketh away. When you get to those worlds, there's not a lot to do. Little fetch quests here and fro, moments to pick up maybe a weapon that was found. It doesn't matter how pretty the packaging is if inside it's a broken piece of glass. There's a lot of moments like that where you build off of something and you enter a world that is of your making. The combat is one of these examples. They've made some real strides with the new Frostbite engine and the new dynamic of fluidity and movements. The profile system is really a revelation. You can treat each situation in whatever way you want, playing as one of the archetypal profiles that you found from the previous 3 games. Unfortunately, though, you don't have access to your weapons during that time. So here's an example. You start a mission and you want to be an infiltrator. You get your sniper rifle, which is part and parcel with that profile. You play as an infiltrator, and then you realize that this combat challenge might require some biotic powers. You can switch to a biotic-oriented profile, but you can't change your weapons. Now, this seems like a small gripe, but little problems like that. Like when you travel from planet to planet, they stick you in the first-person perspective, up to 10 to 15 seconds to get there. When you do die, which could happen often, the autosave, I think maybe timed 15 minutes beforehand. You have to keep redoing the same mundane things that you've done before. That beauty, that truth, that sense of exploration just gets more and more frustrating with each passing hour. The beauty that this game really strives for isn't there. There's metagame aspects that are a whole lot of fun, trying to get these colonists onto this new world, but ultimately, BioWare had an opportunity here to tell a story that hasn't been told before. A story of Eurocentric colonization in new worlds. They never pushed that. This is a rehash of the Reaper story with new baddies, new goodies, but nothing that really challenges the morality of what it means to make a choice for 200,000 humans. Would you make the Angara species die for the sake of your survival? It's something that I wish they did. It's a history that we have here in Canada and the United States, and it's almost shameful that they didn't. Ultimately, there is a lot of fun to be had here. There are moments here that matter, but this game requires that confluence of idea to really shine. It needs a thesis. Great art needs to tell a story, and if subjectively you found something beautiful in this, I understand. But there is objectively some problems with this masterpiece that make me want to go back to the Milky Way galaxy, find my crew, and never go to Andromeda. I'm Andy Burkowski, and this is VGS.